You know, there is a very specific, almost universal moment of dread that happens at, like, a cocktail party or a networking event, you
Ah,
know.
yeah, the inevitable question.
Exactly. It's that moment when someone walks up to you, they shake your hand, and they ask, "So what do you do?"
Right.
And in that exact second, society essentially demands that you justify your entire existence, your whole identity,
Fine.
with a single, easily digestible noun.
Just one word.
Right. You are supposed to say, I am an accountant, or I am a lawyer, or I'm a marketing director.
It's the expectation of this clean binary categorization.
Yeah.
We desperately want to be able to open a mental filing cabinet,
Right.
drop the person into a folder labeled accountant, close the drawer with a nice satisfying click, and, just move on to the appetizers.
It makes the world feel safe.
It makes it predictable, yeah.
But here's where it gets incredibly uncomfortable. What happens when someone answers that question honestly, but they have a multitude of interests? Total chaos. Imagine you are standing there and someone says, well, I'm an IT security consultant, but I also mentor young professionals, and I'm halfway through writing a book on applied philosophy, and oh, I just bought a pottery wheel.
Yeah, if you've ever answered like that, you know exactly what happens next.
You can physically see the recoil in the other person.
Yes. The eyes just completely glaze
It's
over.
like a literal system error.
You watch their brain trying to process the data, failing to find a matching folder, and essentially returning an error code.
And the reaction from the person listening, that slight pulling away, that polite but confused smile, it triggers this deep insecurity in the person speaking.
It really does.
It is the system error feeling. We start to internalize that look. We start to feel like, well, maybe there is something fundamentally wrong with us for not fitting neatly into that single noun.
Like you're broken somehow.
Exactly. And if you've ever felt that, you are what modern psychology calls a scanner.
A scanner personality, yes.
And today, we are going to explore why the modern corporate world is completely terrified of you, and, paradoxically, why the rise of artificial intelligence is about to make you the most valuable person in the room.
Which is such an important shift. We are opening up a thinking space today for people in positions of responsibility, so leaders, mentors, creators.
And for anyone carrying the weight of that system error feeling.
Because what we are really talking about here is orientation in a deeply complex world. We're looking through the lens of systemic perspective to understand how modern leadership and this incredibly resonant concept of the scanner personality interact.
Think about how much of your life, how much of your daily energy you might have spent trying to organize away that discomfort.
Oh, it's exhausting.
We buy these elaborate time management tricks. We download rigid productivity apps. We try to force our beautifully messy, versatile minds to fit into a perfectly linear system.
We treat our own curiosity like a disease we need to cure.
Exactly. But hold on, I want to push back right out of the gate here. Isn't society kind of right to want specialists? I mean, if I need neurosurgery tomorrow, I don't want the guy who is also dabbling in pottery and philosophy on the weekends.
Fair point.
I want the doctor who has spent 20 years doing absolutely nothing but operating on one specific nerve cluster. We need focused experts to keep the world running, don't we?
We absolutely do. Specialists are the absolute bedrock of our civilization.
Right.
This is not about one mode of thinking being morally superior to the other, but what we have to examine is the systemic tension.
Okay, what do you mean by systemic tension?
Well, we have built an entire world, our schools, our corporate ladders, our economic incentives, that only recognizes the specialist.
Oh, I see.
It isn't about the specialist being bad. It is about the intense friction that occurs between a versatile mind and a system that rigidly refuses to accommodate anything that's singular focus.
We don't just value the specialist, we actively punish the generalist.
We do.
There's a really beautiful metaphor psychologists use to describe this divide. They call the societal ideal the diver.
Let's look at the architecture of the diver, because this is the operational mode our entire infrastructure is built upon.
The default setting.
Exactly. The diver is someone who, ideally around the age of 18, finds one singular passion.
They pick their major.
They pick their major, and from that moment on, they go straight down into the dark bottom of a very specific ocean trench.
Just going deeper and deeper.
They become the undisputed master of a tiny, highly concentrated fraction of human knowledge. Think of the biologist who spends 40 years studying the mating habits of one single species of beetle in the Amazon.
And society absolutely loves the diver.
We really do.
We build statues of divers. We equate that kind of depth with moral character. If you stay in one lane for 40 years, you are seen as dedicated, reliable, steadfast.
And inherently valuable.
Yeah.
Your career path is a straight vertical line.
Right.
Systemically, we have conflated narrow depth with reliability. If I know exactly what you do, I can trust you to do it.
But then we have the alternative way of engaging with the world, the swimmer.
Or the scanner.
I love the swimmer analogy. If the diver is in a submarine at the bottom of the trench, looking at a specific rock, the scanner is standing on the shore.
Looking at everything.
They look out at the water, and they are captivated by the entire horizon. The scanner swims across the surface of the ocean because they want to feel how the warm currents interact with the cold currents.
Yes.
They want to visit the coral reefs to see the ecosystem, and then they want to swim miles away to the kelp forest to see how that system operates differently.
And what's vital to understand here is the pattern recognition. Scanners do not see the world as isolated silos of information.
They see connections.
Exactly. Where the diver sees a distinct, separate trench, the scanner sees a massive, interconnected web. They see relationships.
Right, like how the temperature of the water in the coral reef directly affects the growth rate of the kelp forest miles away.
Which used to be the ideal, actually.
I keep thinking about the Renaissance. Someone like Aristotle or Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just one thing. Aristotle was a philosopher, but he also wrote foundational texts on biology, ethics, theater, physics.
Da Vinci was an artist, an engineer, an anatomist.
We used to revere that kind of mind. We literally called it a Renaissance man. So what changed? Why did our systems become so universally obsessed with the diver?
To understand that, we have to look at the industrial roots of our modern work culture. Why do our systems demand divers?
Okay, take us back.
We have to go back to the Industrial Revolution and thinkers like Adam Smith. When Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, he famously described the pin manufacturers.
Oh, the pin factory.
Right. Before this, an artisan made a pin from start to finish. They conceptualized it, they formed it, they finished it. It was holistic.
It was a complete process.
But to maximize efficiency and scale, work was divided into incredibly narrow specializations. One person draws the wire, another person straightens it, a third person cuts it.
A fourth person points it. It absolutely maximized output, but it completely separated the human being from the holistic joy of the work. You are no longer making a pin.
You're just a part of the machine.
You have no connection to the final product. You are just a biological machine cutting wire for 12 hours a day.
And then you layer on Frederick Taylor and his principles of scientific management in the early 20th century.
Taylorism.
Yes, Taylorism fundamentally believed that management should do all the thinking and workers should just perform the highly specialized repetitive tasks.
It was a literal separation of the hand from the brain.
Exactly. Management designs the system. The worker executes the single tiny function within the trench.
Which means the system only functions if everyone stays in their lane.
Right.
If the wire cutter suddenly gets curious about how the wire is drawn, the whole assembly line stops.
Precisely. And the profound systemic insight here is that our modern organizations are largely still trapped in this 20th century machine-like mindset.
We treat dynamic social systems, like teams of highly intelligent human beings, as if they are clockwork mechanisms.
We design job descriptions like they are gears in a machine. We want predictable, interchangeable parts.
But applying Taylorism to a 21st century knowledge economy is like trying to run modern cloud software on a 1920s telegraph wire.
It just doesn't compute.
It makes no sense. The post-industrial world doesn't run on clockwork efficiency anymore. It runs on speed, it runs on adaptability, and it runs on continuous aggressive learning.
And now, and this is the massive paradigm shift we are living through, we have artificial intelligence.
AI is the cognitive mirror that is forcing us to reevaluate all of this.
It changes everything about how we value knowledge.
Think about the implications. If AI can instantly retrieve, summarize, and synthesize deep knowledge from the bottom of any ocean trench on Earth, what is the unique value of human specialization?
That is the question.
I mean, if I can just ask an AI to instantly explain the mating habits of that specific Amazonian beetle or, to generate complex Python code for my software architecture in 3 seconds, what happens to the diver who spent 20 years learning that one specific skill?
That is the defining provocation of our era. AI fundamentally changes the currency of knowledge.
Because depth is suddenly cheap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Simply having deep, rote knowledge is no longer an insurmountable value proposition. because AI lowers the barrier to entering new fields to essentially zero.
It used to take a decade to learn a coding language. Now a large language model can write it for you before you've finished your coffee.
So the value has to shift.
Okay, so if the diver's deep knowledge is being automated, does that mean the scanner finally wins? Or is the scanner obsolete too, since AI can, connect ideas as well?
Oh, the scanner becomes exponentially more valuable, but not because of the sheer volume of information they hold.
Why then?
The true value of the versatile mind in the age of AI is what is called Verbindungscompetence, competence.
Connection competence.
Right? Connection competence.
Mhm.
It is the ability to connect knowledge, to connect people, and to connect technology, but to do so with acute focus, human judgment, and a profound sense of responsibility.
Okay, let's ground connection competence in reality.
Sure.
Imagine a high-stakes tech meeting. You have a room full of highly specialized coders, brilliant divers,
The best in their field.
and they are arguing intensely about a massive software rollout. The code is flawless, but the system is throwing security flags. Now, the scanner is sitting in that room.
Watching everything.
The scanner isn't just looking at the code on the screen. Because they understand systems, they are sensing the human dynamics.
Right.
They are feeling the unspoken exhaustion in the room. They realize that what the divers are treating as a technical security problem is actually a cultural communication problem.
It's a proxy war.
Exactly. Two different departments are fighting for resources, and they are using the code as a battlefield.
That is a perfect example. Because the AI can write the code to patch the security flaw. The AI can even analyze the logs and tell you exactly where the error occurred. But the AI cannot read the tension in the room. The AI cannot realize that the engineering team is burned out, that trust between departments is fractured, and that pushing this rollout today will cause a mass exodus of talent next month.
Right. But, okay, I know there's a listener out there thinking, hold on. In the real world, the coder who fixes the bug gets the bonus and the promotion.
Measurable output.
Exactly. The person, quote unquote, sensing the room's energy just gets ignored or told to stay on topic. How does a scanner actually prove their value in a system that only measures outputs?
That is the exact friction we are talking about. In a legacy system, an old Taylorist system, the scanner is ignored.
They're a nuisance.
But in a complex, fast-moving environment, the failure to read the room leads to systemic collapse. The scanner proves their value by translating the friction.
By naming what's actually happening.
Yes. They are the ones who say, look, we can patch the code, but the real bug is in our workflow. If we don't fix how marketing talks to engineering, we will be back in this room every single week.
And AI cannot do that.
No.
Huh.
You cannot delegate the consequences of a decision to a tool.
That word, responsibility,
It's everything.
it changes the entire dynamic. AI can give you 100 options, but someone has to own the outcome.
Exactly. AI can summarize a 200-page market report. It can build a prototype. But humans must weigh the competing interests.
And risks?
Humans must tolerate the agonizing, visceral uncertainty of a complex situation where there is no perfect answer. And most importantly, humans must bear the moral and practical responsibility for what happens next.
Think about when a shiny new technological solution is proposed, say, automating customer service. The AI will tell you exactly how to implement it with maximum efficiency.
It will give you the roadmap.
But the scanner, using systemic perspective, asks the questions the machine fundamentally cannot ask.
Like what?
Like, what does this change in the daily rhythm of our work? Who gains agency in this new system? Who loses it? What new hidden dependencies are we creating on third-party vendors? And what assumptions are remaining completely invisible to us?
Because AI optimizes for the metric you give it.
Right.
It doesn't ask who loses agency. If you tell it to reduce call times, it might achieve that by hanging up on angry customers.
Literally just cutting the line.
To ask the right systemic questions, you need a mind that understands how disparate systems interact. Which brings us to the actual anatomy of how a versatile mind works.
Because there is a massive misconception here.
Huge. People think scanners are just easily distracted, flighty people who can't commit.
Oh, the dreaded jack of all trades, master of none insult. We hear that all the time.
It's such a tired cliche.
Society looks at a resume with 5 different industries on it and assumes the person is unstable. But when you dive into the neurochemistry of the scanner, it flips that assumption completely upside down. Scanners don't just learn content. They aren't just memorizing random trivia about pottery and then memorizing facts about IT security. They are hunting for structures.
They are relentlessly looking for the underlying pattern.
Yes. Think about it like architectural blueprints. A scanner goes into a new job, say supply chain logistics. They don't just want to know how to fill out the
They
forms.
want to see the whole building.
They want to see the blueprint of how the entire global system moves. And once they understand the structure, once they see the pattern of how the thing works and how the pieces connect, their learning curve flattens out.
The mystery is solved.
The blueprint is in their head.
And this is the critical moment of divergence. For a diver, understanding the basics is just the beginning. Now, they want to spend 20 years looking at one specific gear in the machine.
They want to polish the gear.
Right. But for the scanner, once the pattern is clear, the dopamine drops.
It's just gone.
They want to move on to the next system to see how that works, and then crucially, see how the two systems might connect.
And from the outside, to a hiring manager who is a diver, this looks erratic. It looks like you got bored and quit.
It looks like a lack of discipline.
But from the inside of the scanner's mind, it is highly logical and incredibly efficient. It's like, I understand the structure, my intellectual work here is done, I have assimilated the pattern. Next.
And it's important to note that not all scanners operate identically. Psychologists generally see two distinct behavioral types here.
Oh, the cyclical and sequential.
Exactly. You have cyclical scanners who might orbit the same 4 or 5 core topics over the course of decades.
Like a planetary orbit.
Right. They move from music production to software engineering to creative writing, and then years later, they cycle back to music with totally new insights.
Yeah, and the other type.
The sequential scanners. They dive deeply into a completely new field, solve whatever inner burning question drove them there, and then they move on entirely, never to return.
So if you are a scanner listening to this, and your resume looks like a random collection of completely unrelated jobs, maybe you were a circus performer, then an accountant, and now you run a tech startup, you're probably desperately looking for the red thread.
You're in job interviews sweating, trying to explain how it all connects.
Oh, it's the worst feeling. But the profound insight here is that the red thread isn't in what you do, it's in why you do it.
The motivation is the constant, not the task.
For a scanner, the red thread might be a deep-seated drive to optimize chaotic systems.
Oh, that's a good one.
When they were a circus performer, they were optimizing the physical chaos of the rigging. When they were an accountant, they were optimizing financial chaos. Now, in tech, they are optimizing data flow.
The what changed wildly, but the why remained identical.
Exactly. Or the red thread might be giving people orientation, or translating complex ideas into simple ones, or building bridges between isolated groups.
And once you realize that, the shame of the varied resume just evaporates.
You aren't lost. You are just applying your core motivation to different mediums.
So if we take this versatile, pattern-seeking brain, how does it actually fit into modern leadership? Because leadership is ultimately about managing systems.
To understand that, we really have to look at the evolution of leadership paradigms.
Theory X versus Theory Y.
Yeah. In the past, in that industrial clockwork model we discussed, management relied on Theory X.
Which is?
This is the ingrained idea of the heroic leader, the leader who sits at the top of the pyramid, knows more than anyone else, controls every variable, and pulls all the strings.
The ultimate diver in a corner office.
Exactly. They got there because they were the best at the specific task, so now they get to tell everyone else how to do the task.
But we now live in what is constantly referred to as a VUCA world.
Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Right. In a highly complex environment, the heroic leader fails catastrophically. The bottleneck is at the top. One person simply cannot process enough information fast enough to control a complex global system.
If you try to control a modern organization like a machine with rigid top-down levers, it snaps.
So we have to completely abandon the machine metaphor.
What's the alternative then?
We have to move toward an organism metaphor. An organization isn't a clock, it's a living ecosystem.
That breathes and adapts?
Yes, it needs to be proactive, flexible, and power must be distributed to the edges where the information actually is. Leadership in this environment becomes significantly less about pulling strings and telling people exactly what to do, and much more about providing orientation.
And this is where the scanner absolutely shines.
They do.
Because scanners are naturally adept at holding multiple, sometimes conflicting perspectives in their heads without forcing an immediate, reductive, simple answer.
They tolerate the ambiguity.
Right. They can look at the ecosystem and say, okay, marketing wants to go left, engineering wants to go right, the market is shifting south. Here are the currents. Here is the horizon we are aiming for.
They provide the orientation without micromanaging the fish.
I love that. But to provide that kind of clear orientation for others, the leader has to be incredibly aware of their own internal processes.
Oh, absolutely. You cannot orient a team if your own internal compass is spinning wildly.
Which brings us to a really crucial biological reality about how leaders make decisions under pressure.
This is one of the most fascinating psychological components we're exploring today.
There's a brilliant quote from psychologist Dr. Julie Sasser-Burgos that perfectly captures this. She says, the prefrontal cortex loves understanding. If there is not sufficient information, it will use what it has and drag in other material, and you will not always know what was dragged in.
It is a profound observation about human neuroscience and the danger of leadership under stress.
Our brains are essentially prediction machines that absolutely despise a vacuum.
We have two operating systems in our brains, which Daniel Kahneman famously categorized as the fast system and the slow system.
In System 1 and System 2.
Right. The fast system is evolutionary. It is designed to save energy. It uses shortcuts, approximations, and deep-seated biases to keep us alive in dangerous situations.
It's the survival brain.
And the slow system yields precise, thoughtful, systemic results, but it burns a massive amount of caloric energy.
So think about a modern leader. When the market is volatile, when hundreds of emails are piling up, when the board is demanding immediate answers on a missed quarterly target, that leader is biologically depleted.
They do not have the glucose, the energy, for the slow system.
They default to the fast system. And because they don't have all the information about why the target was missed, their prefrontal cortex panics. It needs a story.
So it just starts dragging in old material.
Historical fears, unresolved insecurities, biases about certain employees, just to make the picture make sense.
Exactly. And the terrifying part is they don't even realize they are doing it.
They think they're being totally rational.
They think they are making an objective, data-driven decision, but they are actually reacting to a phantom threat constructed from their own past experiences. They aren't managing the present crisis. They are managing their own neurological anxiety.
I've actually seen this happen in real time.
Oh, tell me.
A major client abruptly cancels a contract. The CEO is stressed and exhausted. Instead of pausing to figure out why the client left, the CEO's brain drags in a narrative. We are losing money. We are under attack. I need to show strength.
The fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. So the CEO immediately fires a key vendor to recoup the lost revenue, completely missing the fact that the client actually left because the company's customer service was terrible.
Wow. So they fixed the wrong problem.
The CEO just compounded the error because they reacted to the fear, not the facts.
That is systemic reactivity. So the question becomes, how do we stop that? How do we break this biological trauma response loop where we perceive a threat and instantly act on it, usually making the ecosystem worse?
This is where we introduce a vital behavioral framework, the WORT principle, or the word principle.
WORT.
It's not just a cute acronym. It acts as a literal sequence breaker. It is a deliberate, engineered architecture of a pause between stimulus and response.
Let's walk through it because this is intensely practical for anyone making decisions today.
Okay, WORT. The W stands for Wahrnehmung, which is perception.
Step 1. Observe the event without instantly judging it.
Which is incredibly hard.
Just look at the raw data. In our example, the perception is a client canceled a contract.
That is it.
Not, we are failing. Not, the sales team is lazy. Just the fact itself.
You are separating the event from the story you tell yourself about the event.
Then we move to the O, which is Orientierung, orientation.
Where are we historically and strategically in relation to this specific event?
What is our actual market position? Have we lost clients like this before? What were our overarching goals for this quarter?
You are forcing your brain to look at the map before you start sprinting into the woods.
Yes. Then comes the R, and this is the crux of systemic leadership. Resonance. Resonance.
This is the internal and cultural check.
What does this external event actually trigger inside our culture or inside our own minds?
Are we about to fire that vendor out of genuine strategic necessity? Or are we responding because the CEO has a deep historical insecurity about looking weak in front of the board, and this cancellation triggered his fight or flight response?
If you don't check the resonance, you are flying blind. You might tear up your entire business strategy just to unconsciously soothe an executive's ego.
You have to understand the emotional echo the event creates inside the system.
And only after you have perceived, oriented, and checked the resonance do you move to the T-town action.
Perceive, orient, check resonance, then act.
If you skip the middle two steps, If you just perceive a threat and act immediately. Your business strategy is basically just a trauma response dressed up as executive action.
But let's push the boundary here. It's one thing to say, take a pause and orient yourself.
Right?
But what are you actually doing in that pause? In a fast-moving environment, you can't meditate on a mountaintop for a week. You still have to choose a path. How do you evaluate the micro decisions within that pause?
This brings us to another mental model that pairs perfectly with the pause. The consequences compass, or consequenzen compass.
It's a tool for ethical, systemic practice that forces the diver's brain to look at the scanner's horizon.
The consequences compass maps out 4 distinct quadrants that a leader must evaluate before committing to an action.
Let's apply this to a deep, realistic scenario. Let's say a company is deciding whether to roll out a massive new generative AI system that will essentially replace their junior creative team.
A very real scenario right now. Quadrant 1 asks, what is the best possible intended consequence?
That's the easy one. That's the pitch deck.
Right.
We save a massive amount of money on payroll, we increase our content output by 500%, and our profit margins skyrocket.
Standard linear business planning. Then Quadrant 2 asks, what is a positive side effect that might organically emerge?
Okay, looking beyond the obvious, maybe because the AI is handling the bulk of the basic design work, our senior art directors have more free time. Maybe they finally have the bandwidth to pitch entirely new, high-level campaigns that we never had time for before. That's a great bonus.
But Quadrant 3 is where the systemic weight really sits.
Yeah.
This is the quadrant most leaders actively avoid.
The shadow quadrant.
What specific costs, sacrifices, or negative side effects will inevitably occur?
The heavy question, the true cost.
Yeah.
If we replace the junior creatives, yes, we save money today, but where do senior art directors come from?
They come from junior creatives.
Right, who learn the ropes. If we fire the juniors, we are eating our own seed corn. In 5 years, we will have no internal talent pipeline.
And on top of that, you destroy the trust of the remaining staff.
Because they now view management as ruthless.
And you create a total dependency on a third-party tech vendor who can raise their API prices by 300% next year, and you won't have the staff to push back.
A leader who only looks at quadrants 1 and 2 is a dangerous, fundamentally blind leader.
Systemic leadership means caring not just about achieving the goal, but deeply analyzing the way the goal is achieved and the ripple effects it sends through the human ecosystem.
And finally, quadrant 4. What unforeseen potentials could be unlocked?
This requires real imagination.
Maybe implementing the AI forces the company to completely rethink what it actually sells.
How so?
Well, maybe you realize you aren't a high-volume design company anymore. Maybe your true value is in hyper-bespoke, human-crafted strategy, and you pivot the entire business model.
But the undeniable beauty of the consequences compass is that it demands you look at the sacrifices. You can't just pretend the negative side effects don't exist.
When the diver makes a decision, they only see the mud at the bottom of their trench.
Right.
The compass forces them to swim to the surface and look at the whole horizon like a scanner.
Because ignoring the negative side effects doesn't make them disappear. It just pushes the cost on the most vulnerable elements of your system, usually the employees.
Which brings us to a foundational truth underlying all of this. Before you can responsibly guide a system, before you can use a compass for your company, you must be able to lead yourself.
Self-leadership first. We cannot talk about system dynamics without talking about the psychology of the person standing at the center of the system.
Personal development in this context isn't about becoming a perfect, emotionless robot, though.
Not at all. Psychologists often discuss a development path called transcend and include. It's a beautiful, forgiving way of looking at growth.
What does that mean practically?
It means you don't destroy your old way of being. You don't try to violently kill off the parts of yourself that used to react out of fear, or the parts that crave total control.
Because they kept you safe at one point.
Exactly. Instead, you integrate them. You
Right.
become aware of them, and you actively choose when to use those energies, rather than being unconsciously driven by them.
And there is a framework here for that daily self-leadership practice. It's called ACR attendancy. Awaken, clarify, realign.
Think of it as a continuous internal loop.
Walk us through it.
Awaken is about waking up to your own constructions in the moment. It's the sudden realization, like, oh, I am currently viewing this employee's honest mistake through the lens of my own exhaustion and my fight with my spouse this morning.
You catch yourself wearing the tinted glasses.
Right.
You realize the room isn't red, you are just wearing red lenses. Then you move to clarify.
Clarifying is separating what you can actually control from what you cannot.
What is the undeniable fact on the table, and what is the elaborate story I'm spinning in my head about that fact?
And finally, realign. Acting with conscious awareness of your impact, rather than just reacting from habit.
This connects perfectly to another vital concept in self-leadership, the influence formula, or the Einflussformel. It is a profound check on where we hemorrhage our energy as leaders.
The influence formula asks us to rigorously differentiate between three zones: worry, influence, and responsibility.
Too many leaders, especially in times of crisis, waste enormous amounts of emotional and strategic energy fighting in the zone of worry.
Things they deeply care about, but have absolutely zero power to change.
Like macroeconomic interest rates, global supply chain crashes, or a competitor's completely irrational pricing strategy.
We burn ourselves out screaming at the weather.
That's exactly what it feels like. You are standing in a hurricane yelling at the wind.
Systemic leadership asks a very sobering question. Stop fighting where you have no influence. Retreat to where you actually have leverage.
What is the one conversation, the one clarification of boundaries, the one supportive action you can take today that sits squarely in your zone of responsibility?
I can't change the interest rates, but I can sit down with my lead engineer today and make sure she has the exact resources she needs for the next 2 weeks.
That shift from worry to responsibility is incredibly grounding.
It really is. And this naturally brings us to how we guide others. If you are a leader practicing this kind of self-awareness, you are likely also a mentor.
But systemic mentorship is fundamentally different from what we typically see in the corporate world.
It is.
I mean, if the hardest part of self-leadership is catching our own blind spots, catching ourselves wearing those tinted glasses, how on earth do we guide a junior employee who doesn't even know what a blind spot is yet? Is mentorship just giving them a list of things to avoid?
Usually mentorship is treated as a simple transaction. The junior person brings a problem, and the senior person hands them a ready-made answer based on what works for them 20 years ago.
Right, the classic, here's how I handled a difficult client in 2004, kid. Just do what I did. Good luck.
But systemic mentorship is not a dispensary for old answers.
What is it then?
It is a resonance space.
Mm-hmm.
It is a relationship specifically designed to make the mentee's blind spots visible to themselves. The mentor acts as a mirror, not a map.
I want to explore what that actually sounds like in a room. A systemic mentor asks questions that reveal underlying patterns, not just tactical steps.
Give an example.
For instance, when someone steps into a new leadership role, a traditional mentor asks, "What's your 90-day execution plan?" But a systemic mentor asks something much deeper. They might ask, "What unresolved disappointments are you bringing from your previous organization into this one?"
That is a staggering question because it forces the mentee to confront their emotional baggage.
We all carry the ghosts of our old bad bosses into our new jobs.
We project the dysfunctions of our last team onto our new team.
If you were micromanaged in your last job, you might enter your new job fiercely defensive, rejecting perfectly normal feedback because you are reacting to the ghost of your old boss.
And the mentor might also ask, what are you failing to acknowledge about your current organization?
Oh, that's good.
What informal power structures, the people who actually hold sway, regardless of their title, are you pretending don't exist because they are inconvenient to your neat little 90-day plan?
The goal is to help the mentee see the entire ecosystem clearly, with all its messy human realities, so they can take true responsibility within it.
But, and this is a massive foundational, but absolutely none of this works.
None of it.
Not the WORT principle, not the consequences compass, not the systemic mentoring, not the self-leadership. None of it functions without the absolute bedrock of everything: trust.
Trust is the invisible currency of every social system.
When trust is high, communication is instant and cheap. When trust is low, communication is agonizingly slow, bureaucratic, and expensive.
And what is so vital to understand is that trust is not built by good intentions. You don't get trust just because you want to be a good leader. You don't get trust because you wrote a nice memo.
Trust is built exclusively by experienced impact.
It's built by what people actually feel and witness when they interact with you over time.
To operationalize something as abstract as trust, researchers have distilled global data into core observable behaviors, creating what is called the Vertrauen Code, or the Trust Code. It is an acronym, VERTRAUEN.
Let's pull out the most vital pillars of this code because they are so grounded in reality. The first one is discretion and honesty, and this flips a major corporate myth on its head.
Yes, the myth that leaders must be infallible. We have this illusion that to be trusted, you must project perfect competence at all times. But the research shows the exact opposite.
Making an honest mistake does not cost you trust. Covering up a mistake destroys trust completely and irreversibly.
Because if you cover up a mistake, you become unpredictable. You are actively hiding reality from your team.
If they know you lie to save face, they can never trust your orientation. The next pillar is respect and transparency. And there's an example here that cuts right to the bone. How the CEO treats the janitor says infinitely more than any corporate value statement painted on the lobby wall.
Because it reveals the true Haltung, the deep inner stance of the leader. Are you only respectful to people who have utility to you?
Are you only kind to the board members and the top salespeople?
If so, your team knows exactly who you are. They know that the moment their utility to you drops, your respect for them will vanish.
Transparency also means clarifying expectations early. It means not making your employees guess what success looks like in your head.
Then we have reliability and sincerity.
What does that look like in practice?
This means being predictable in your values. It means standing by your stated principles even when it is financially or politically painful.
This is where so many companies fail. A leader will stand up at an all-hands meeting and claim to deeply value work-life balance and mental health. But then, come promotion season, they silently promote the guy who works 80-hour RITs, answers emails at 2 a.m., and is on the verge of a heart attack, while passing over the person who does excellent work but logs off at 5 p.m. to see their kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the system watches that happen. Your stated values mean absolutely nothing. Your system will adapt to your actions, not your words. You are rewarding burnout, so your system will produce burnout.
And the final pillar I want to highlight is support, empathy, and neutrality. The definition of neutrality here is beautiful. It means starting every interaction with the baseline assumption. I trust you until proven otherwise.
It is the deliberate, conscious choice to assume positive intent.
Right.
If an employee misses a critical deadline, a reactive leader defaults to the fast brain. They are lazy, they don't care, they're defying me.
But a systemic leader starts with empathy. They step into the employee's shoes and ask, what systemic blockages prevented this competent person from succeeding? Did I fail to give them resources? Is another department blocking them?
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of conceptual ground today. We have traversed a deep and complex thinking space. Let's try to weave all of these threads together to see the whole horizon.
We began with the very real pain of the scanner personality, the versatile mind feeling like a system error because it couldn't be filed into a single noun.
We saw how that pain is rooted in a 20th century industrial machine that demanded specialization.
We looked at the diver deep in their trench versus the swimmer connecting the ecosystems on the horizon.
We explored how the advent of artificial intelligence fundamentally changes this landscape. When rote knowledge synthesis is automated, the distinctly human value becomes connection competence. The ability to provide orientation, ethical judgment, and contextual understanding in a room full of specialists.
We dove into the neurochemistry of versatility, understanding that scanners aren't just distracted, they are hunting for structural blueprints.
We explored the WORT principle. Perceive, orient, check resonance, act as a vital way to break the biological trauma response loop.
We use the consequences compass to evaluate not just the intended benefits of our actions, but the hidden sacrifices and systemic ripples.
And we grounded it all in the self, the ACR loop of awaken, clarify, and realign. Recognizing that you can only guide an ecosystem if you are managing your own internal weather.
And that all of this rests on the unwavering behavioral foundation of trust.
Ultimately, the message for the versatile mind, for the scanner, is one of profound liberation.
Yes.
You often hear scanners resist structure because they fear it will trap them. But systemic structure is not a corset designed to restrict your breathing. Conscious structure is the very foundation of your freedom.
I absolutely love that distinction. Structure isn't a corset, it's a foundation.
By using these frameworks, by checking your influence, by setting temporary priorities, you aren't deciding against your myriad of interests. You are simply deciding on a conscious sequence.
You are giving your immense energy a direction rather than letting it dissipate into the ether.
You are finally becoming the architect of your own versatility rather than its victim.
Which brings us to the end of our time together today. But in this deep dive, we don't just want to leave you with a notebook full of theory.
No, we want to leave you with a provocation, something to carry into your day, your next chaotic meeting, your next quiet moment of reflection.
We want to bring all of this high-level systemic theory right down to the messy reality of your daily life.
So here's the question we want you to mull over. Think about your current environment. your team, your family, your organization. Look at it through the lens of a scanner.
What consequence of your leadership are you currently avoiding because it is deeply uncomfortable, but if you faced it, it would actually create the exact clarity your system desperately needs?
Sit with that discomfort. Let it orient you.
Thank you for stepping into this thinking space with us today. Keep looking at the whole horizon. Until next time.